What's up, All Eyes DB Camp fans? It's great when you have an outstanding individual player in the secondary, like a standout cornerback or a really great safety. It's even better when you have dynamic duos, like a great pair of safeties or some bookend corners that lock down the offense. But there's nothing better than having an entire unit in a secondary that just totally dominates the opposition and makes throwing the football an extreme chore for the offense. That's what we're talking about today in this boss unit. It's the 1994 San Francisco 49ers secondary, and we're talking about it today on DB Tip Clips. Well, speaking about being a great individual player or being a part of a great unit, if you want to be the top DB that you can be, if you want to reach elite levels, and you got to pick up a copy of 101 DB Tips. It's the ultimate defensive back resource guide. Everything you need to know about playing safety, corner, how to train in the offseason, how to study film, drills, workouts, and more right there in 101 DB Tips. I'll have a link to it down in the description below. Go ahead and pick that up and watch your game rise to the elite level. Now, getting down to the topic at hand, boss unit, 1994 San Francisco 49ers secondary. Everyone knows that the Dallas Cowboys were the team of the decade in the 1990s. To get where you wanted to go every year, the Cowboys had to go through the San Francisco 49ers. The battles between these two teams during that era were legendary. However, as the early part of the 90s unfolded, the 49ers were finding themselves on the losing end of the clash of the Titans. To get things back in their favor, the 49ers had to make a move, and they did so in the offseason prior to the 1994 season. Let's break down one of the all-time great secondaries in the NFL. Starting with cornerback Deion Sanders. Why even save this one for last? We all know that Sanders was the missing piece, and after completing 5 years with the team that drafted him, the Atlanta Falcons, Sanders hit the open market for all teams to make a bid. Ultimately, as we often find out in professional sports, winning teams do winning things. Signing Deion Sanders in 1994 was a winning thing that paid heavy dividends. In my opinion, and probably in the eyes of most, 1994 was Deion Sanders' best season as a pro. Going from a mediocre franchise, the Falcons, to a perennial contender and winner of world championships like the 49ers, elevated Sanders as well as those around him. For some godforsaken reason, opposing teams in 1994 thought it was a good idea to throw in the direction of the future Hall of Famer. Fortunately for Sanders and the 49ers, these decisions were made. Primetime made most of those opponents pay by intercepting 6 passes and returning them for a season and a career high of 303 yards. Half of those interceptions went back for touchdowns, including a 93-yarder in his return to the Atlanta to face the Falcons. By now, you have already seen that play where he looked at the Falcons sideline for about 50 yards and taunted them in the end zone with his famous dance. Along with the interceptions, Sanders dominated his side of the field. When you combine that with the rest of the athletic talent that surrounded him on defense, it just stands to reason that this unit was going to be a problem, and it was. Deion Sanders could arguably call one of the best free agent pickups of all time. 1 year later, he hit the open market again and signed with the Dallas Cowboys. That's so Deion. Free safety, Merton Hanks. You think that when a guy gets 6 interceptions like Sanders did, he more than likely led the team in that category. Well, not on this boss unit. That distinction went to free safety Merton Hanks. Hanks ended the year as the team leader with 7 interceptions. He also added a forced fumble and 2 fumble recoveries. Literally, Hanks was always around the football. While Hanks may have gained more notoriety for having an oddly long neck and performing what became a popular dance after a big play, the truth of the matter is that Hanks was a solid defensive back, and he was as solid as there was in 1994. Though his season saw him reach a career high in interceptions, Hanks had a knack for picking passes off, as the rest of his career would show. In his 7-year stretch, he plucked 30 enemy passes. 1994 was one of the most productive seasons as a pro, and he was rewarded by making the Pro Bowl at the end of the season. Strong safety, Tim McDonald. By 1994, Tim McDonald was in his 8th season in the NFL. The season before, he came over to the 49ers from the Phoenix Cardinals. As a Cardinal, McDonald had established himself as both a big hitter and a ball hawk. He would continue to be those things for the 49ers. While his interception total of 2 in 1994 was nothing to write home about, McDonald made his presence felt in the secondary by laying the wood, covering tight ends, and making the tough tackles. He scored twice on defense that year, once with an interception and another on a 49-yard fumble recovery. McDonald's solid play was rewarded with his 5th selection to the Pro Bowl in his career at the end of the season. Cornerback, Eric Davis. When you play cornerback on a team that has Deion Sanders, it's difficult to get press. Such was the case for Davis, who was a 5th-year cornerback from Jacksonville State. 2 seasons prior, he'd become a full-time starter for the 49ers. He had totaled 7 interceptions in those 2 seasons and had proven himself to be a solid cornerback. That continued with Sanders' arrival as opponents thought it better to go at Davis when Sanders kept scoring touchdowns against them. While Davis did not rack up interception stats, he proved to be very difficult for opposing quarterbacks to find completions against. Passes defense was not a stat that was kept back in 1994, but if it was, I'm pretty sure Davis would have been among the league leaders. Davis was also a guy who was always around the football in 1994. He forced a pair of fumbles and recovered another 2. His numbers were not good enough to get him into the Pro Bowl, but ask any 49ers fan or teammate and they'll tell you Davis was as solid as anyone. After the 1994 season, Davis had a 5-year stretch in which he had 5 interceptions each season. In 1999, the first year that passes defense was a stat, Davis was 2nd in the league with an amazing 24. There were several other contributors to the 49ers secondary. One of those included Dana Hall, a safety who had 2 interceptions during the year. When all was said and done, an amazing 3 out of the 4 starters for the 1994 49ers secondary were elected to the Pro Bowl, and one, Sanders, made the All-Pro team. I had the pleasure of watching this team and its secondary practice for the Super Bowl game against the San Diego Chargers that year. It was easy to see why they were as good as they were. The entire unit had an amazing work ethic and practice habits. It came as no shock to me when they destroyed the Chargers in the Super Bowl 49-26. In the game, the Chargers managed to put up 305 passing yards, but that was due in large part to them having to attempt 55 passes in the game. Chargers quarterback Stan Humphries threw 3 interceptions in the game, 1 to Eric Davis, 1 to Toy Cook, and the last one to Sanders. It was one of the most dominant performances in the Super Bowl. The Boss unit led the NFL in interceptions with 23 in 1994. It doesn't get any more boss than that. Hey, who's your favorite all-time secondary? Go ahead and drop a comment down below and let us know who you think was the best all-around secondary you ever watched. And once again, if you're trying to reach the elite level as a coach or a player in the secondary, pick up a copy of 101 DB Tips or take the time to join the All Eyes DB Camp members area. Over 200 videos on technique, drills, workouts, coverages explained, and more right there for you to reach the top level in your profession as a player or a coach. All right, that's it for me. I'm looking forward to doing more of these Boss Unit videos for you in the future. So make sure you go ahead and subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you're notified the next time I put out a DB video like this one. On your way out, give this video a like and share. Thanks for watching All Eyes DB Camp. Consistency breeds results.